Continuing my proud tradition of confusing the algorithm and making people wonder why they click on my videos, I'm going to talk about one of my favorite places in StarCitizen, the Commons, that's located in New Babbage on Microtech in Stanton. It's funny I have to add that last part now because we have two systems. Notice this new system that has the reservations only and some NPCs that are designed to keep you out of this high-end neo-imperial cuisine location, OZA. Now, there is a location in Orison, ironically on platforms that are fought over, that allows you to see the interior of a different OZA. However, this OZA is not available yet. However, this one is not in a PVX zone where people have to shoot at each other. So that's a nice plus. I mean, if you're actually going to have a nice sit-down meal. So it seems like over time they will add this restaurant location. And it got me thinking about something bigger. How is the Commons or any of these retail and commercial areas of the larger planetary landing locations, aka cities and Stanton, going to look when we have what we already have 500 players running around? So this is being recorded on the 4.0 preview. And it is a release candidate. So this is very close, if not the build that will be out there for 4.0 Live very soon. So it got me thinking, when this is running around with 500 players on board, running around these systems, especially when they get a little tired of Pyro, they want a little more rest and relaxation, what is there available here? And how's it going to, I'm trying to imagine how it's going to look when it gets bigger. Now, two of the other interesting things in the Commons that are still not quite here yet is this Lily Monte Salon. And that is designed to have an elevator that takes you up to a second floor. And then it may even have a crossover walk. And I'm going to get over to that in a minute. But I also wanted to cover the spa that's across the way. Now, this is all near Wallys Bar, if you're wondering where this is. So if you go to the end of the Commons that most people don't make it to, where Whammers is and Wallys Bar and Apparelli's clothing store that we walk by, you will see these locations that are just kind of hidden in plain sight. This is the Thal Spa. So this also, based on sizing, is going to have to take you to a second floor above you. And there is these glass catwalks that are crossing inside the dome still that seem like they're going there. Now, some of the other locations that interested me was some of these medical facility, like mini offices. It gave me the sense of like a medical park building. So for those who are, in the US or probably from Canada and such, we have like these medical mini buildings. Usually they're consultants or a psychiatry building or an outpatient facility of some sort of medical field, like a dentist office or something, will be in these locations. And that's what it struck me as. There's also in the back there personal trainers and some other fun stuff, and literally fun stuff. I think the one company is like IntelliFun or something that's supposed to be planning your adventures, and you'll see a rock wall that's their advertisement towards the front of the Commons as we continue on. One of the other things that's really neat is not those item storage systems that are like the new ATMs, the new item kiosks. You'll notice these upper floors of Wallys Bar. Like this guy might even be the DJ playing the music. I don't know, genuinely don't know. But you cannot access them right now. And what you can get to is you can see a little peek behind the curtain of the future of AI, I guess you call it bartenders and waitresses and waiters and such, running food out of these locations. So those doors would likely open, and then they would be able to place items into these little containers, and they would also dispose of trash left on the tables. That last part is what interests me the most, strangely. If we have 500 players running around these locations, then you will need to have AI that goes and cleans everything up. And one of the biggest immersion breaking moments is when you see just like a server tick. Like a good example from the old days is RuneScape. RuneScape Classic, RuneScape 2, items would just lay on the ground and then they would just pop out of existence after X number of seconds. And they had different rules based on if it was a player could see it or not see it. NPC drop, they all had different rules. Even tombstones later on for different downed players had a certain amount of time, they could be blessed, whatever. The point is, in StarCitizen, we don't have anything like that. And one of the sales pitches of SC from the beginning, Chris Roberts said early on about these ideas of being able to put a coffee cup on the side of a moon and just be able to fly away and then come back, and the game remembers you put the coffee cup or somebody did, and then it pops into existence. It brings up really interesting questions. And as I look at this ice sculpture, that's actually one of the loading screens. When you choose New Babbage as a home site, depending on the build, it usually is put on the main menu, and you see this giant icicle sticking into the inside of a building. And it always struck me as horribly inefficient. This close to, I think, or over 100-year-old ice it's just sitting inside of an ice cube inside a heated building. But that's how it is. So as I tour the thing and desecrate this wonderful site, upset these NPCs, I get my present, which, by the way, are sitting in 4.0 preview, and they are going for 500 UEC a pop. Just kind of a fun little Easter egg for me. And I toured the back of here to see if you would freeze to death back there, and if there's anything hidden back here. Spoiler, there isn't. It is a pretty neat spot, though. And I gotta tell you, the juxtaposition of like some type of palm tree next to a giant ice sculpture is something special. So this specific ice sculpture was quoted, was commissioned, it seems, from Microtech themselves, the company that runs this planet, and Magnus Tobin, one of the CEOs, talking about how great it was, and the resolve of the people that run it. That kind of, I'm paraphrasing, but it is amazing. There is more ice on this side of the location, but I strongly suspect you're not just here to see a pile of ice. So let's continue our exploration outside of the icy areas. So next to the ice sculpture is two locations. There's the cove, and it has those controls. And we also saw the other one across the way. I'll be honest with you, I forget the name of it. But they're both here, and they're basically useless at this moment. However, when we have a large amount of players, I could see players forming up at the back left cave or the back right cave. That's what I would call them. Like they're little dance clubs. And I think they could breathe some life into them if there was something there worth doing, like playing your own music, maybe finding music tracks, different places. I don't think the game's going to let you build your own, import your own songs and share them with other players, at least, unfortunately. But it would be really cool if you could like play like different tracks you've unlocked by playing in different places around StarCitizen and different systems. Maybe find an album or two, or buy them off of Spectrum with UEC in game. It would be really cool to be able to be the life of the party, upload those songs, and all of a sudden everybody's chilling, and it changes the lighting in there. I think something like that could be used once in a blue moon for role play and for fun, and for orgs to kind of let loose a little bit and celebrate after finishing up some contracts. And also, because it's so uncommon, people are there, it's basically, you have two different locations to choose from, the left or the right, and you can just load it up, go in there, and pretty much nobody's going to bother you. Back to OZA, that's another location that orgs could form up in the future when they have reservation systems. And in theory, the NPCs will not just let you just jump past them, and they're not just there for show. They will actually stop people who do not have reservations, or maybe even give them crime stat or something and force them out. Maybe like the hangar system, like after X number of seconds, if you're not invited, you're kicked out, and you're back standing at Wally's bar, at least. That kind of thing. You'll see the reason I believe there's a second floor to these, because there's a giant sign for the Salon, and there's also one for the spa across the way that also has it on the second floor. So we are now transiting back across from Wally's bar. We're still in the last dome of the Commons, and I'm noticing that there's these other locations. So there are these doorways to nowhere. I think those doors are for show. I It's possible that the spa and salon on the second floor have those walkways so that you can see the Thal spa. You walk across the walkway and then you either go downstairs or an elevator and then you get to that balcony and it's part of the complex, but it just seems like that's an awful long way down from those locations. I start getting scouty about this, like, oh, well, what's up there? Is there some markings or information about those locations? And I'll be honest with you, it would be wonderful if we had these new services in the game and also for role play and whatever. But on the long term, it's kind of maybe a selfish thought, but I would love to see advanced habitation here. So for years, people have been talking about having Lorville's central business district, where the large tower is, the big. It looks like it's out. It's like expired by Blade Runner looking thing, the giant box in the sky, with the opening in the center. People have been talking about that. I would love to have habitation in New Babbage inside the Commons. So being able to spawn in right above Wally's bar, good food, good location to gear up with weapon systems, have drivable vehicles spawnable from the Commons. Although it's not right next to your room, having a beautiful overlooking space like this certainly would be interesting to me. Now, yes, for those who pointed out, and I'm going to beat you to the comments here. Yes, in general, being able to spawn at the hangar should always be an option in my eyes. And remember, hangars are going to be complexes. They're going to have many areas. But no matter, even when they do fix the audio issues in the hangars and make them a little quieter, there's still going to be louder industrial environments. And I feel that you should always have the option, and I feel that a lot of players will take the option of having these luxurious locations. And this may be unpopular, but I would love to see an alternate mode of transportation or express trains that take you right to the spaceport from those advanced locations. So having an express train from the Commons to New Babbage Interstellar Spaceport, NBIS, would be a major step forward. You can see how it looks like there's a balcony up there. So if you had habitation, this ain't a bad place to have it. I would love to have like a penthouse suite up here and pay good UEC per month to keep it, or maybe get reputation, or both. But yeah, then the only question mark is, how do you quickly get over to the spaceport to make it not an inconvenience to be here? There are these locations that are kind of built in. So between the biomes, there are these mini stations, and you'll see that they have these locations, and then they have these fire exits and also restricted signs, and then also restroom. So right here might actually become a super critical place in the future. You got fire extinguishers for engineering, which people will take off the wall if they let them. The storage kiosks over to the right, trash right there, which means you get free UEC. More on that in a second. And then restrooms. Depending on how hardcore CIG gets about this hygiene thing, people in single-seat fighters in the future will need to use restrooms in other locations. And then, honestly, trash cans like that, if the game... Okay, let me take a step back here. So everything in the game is worth resources. So even an empty can of Coke, being able to drink that and be able to take those drinks and put them into the trash can, I think that you should get some sort of small reimbursement on your drink for bothering to put it in the trash can. A lot like the 5-cent deal, once again, a North America thing, I think, where you deposit, cans in certain places and you get like some sort of incentive bonus, and then it's sitting inside the can. So NPCs occasionally will come by and pick it up. There's one of those restricted elevators that they could send that to anywhere, and this is right next to the place where you spawn in ground vehicles. So you now have a trash can that occasionally NPCs will go by, clean it out, or maybe they'll just have a Disney-style system where the trash chutes get sucked out via the ground every X number of minutes or hours or whatever, real world. It brings up an interesting question of, if they aren't taken yet, then players who are just starting out or down on their luck will probably want to gather those resources and take them with them. Especially if you're heading back to your outpost as your next stop, being able to just fill up your armor, chest piece, and your legs with all sorts of resource that's metal would be quite useful. I'm noting in that room that there is a area there for contracts, so you can deposit or pick up items there. That's really what it feels like it was engineered for. And then there's suit lockers for the NPCs, and then this makeshift airlock, because it is breathable air on MB, like the other planets, although Lorefill's debatable. But here is a Cuddy Black just chilling. Somebody's loading up. And you'll note, though, the temperatures are significant. However, when we're looking through here, there are other domes that are not used. So there are some domes that are lower down that are part of the system. And then there's these other domes that have like fake windows, and they absolutely could fill those via the Wonkavaders, the elevators that can go anywhere. You could go from one of those restricted elevators and it could take you to a dome right next door, and that could be where you have habitation or maybe your own organizational businesses. Some of the earliest things in orgs I think that would be important is being able to just sell to your org mates and friendly orgs. That would be a key nuance here. Being able to go into one of those elevators and instead of hangar 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, pad 2, 1, 2, and whatnot, and docking collar 1, 2, being able to just go in there into one of those elevators, and all your org and friendly orgs, sales places are all in there. And it could just be a copy and pasted location with a different name on the kiosk, and have a couple AI guards in there. And then that would be a huge boon to organizations to be able to declare, this is where you spawn, this is where most of our stuff is. You know, we have discounted equipment to get you started. If you later on, then they could integrate in buying and selling, so you could drop things off for the org, maybe have org contracts like they've always teased from CIG's efforts in the future. But I feel like that would be a huge way to integrate. So a place like this that's all NPC sales locations suddenly being integrated into a player economy in different ways. So having both kind of sides of the coin glued together suddenly makes this place have a lot more life. It's not, oh, well, there's only certain clothes in that place, there's only certain armors, there's only certain ammos, there's only certain weapons, whatever you're looking for, ship components. Suddenly your entire org has a warehouse that's accessible from this location. It's a secure location that doesn't allow for combat. So it's perfect for an organization that doesn't have a lot going on in a combat capacity, or doesn't just they don't want to worry about logistics.
What's going on with you?
No Jared's voice there. I did not add that.
About what's happening on Terran 3.
He's going to talk again in a second through the guy on the left left side.
Out of their way to kill each other.
Wanted to put it like that myself, but I get what you mean.
It's wild to hear some of the CIGers get brought in as doing their voice acting. So it brings up an interesting question. Aside from me taking a bunch of packages and trying to talk life and speculating about where these places are, what is this going to look like just with 500 players on board? Let's just say there's no org integration. There's no habitation. Let's just look at what we got here. Well, you've got a place that's on the central loop of the ride system, a free system to get you around. The trams are everywhere, and being able to get you in and out of here with a whole bunch of different resources available. However, if CIG turns around and makes it so every single item has to be itemized, and you have 500 players, and there's suddenly an event that's defend New Babbage, instead of Orison being attacked all the time, it's suddenly New Babbage is on lockdown, defend it, and now there's this cool new YouTube video from the official StarCitizen.
Hi. Let me know if there's anything I can help you with.
And they're pushing it hard. Everyone's going to set their home to this location. So it has to be able to accommodate, say, 2/3 of the entire server wanting to live out of this location. And the items and not just the items themselves not being in service.
Hi. Thanks for coming in.
These locations are more built for, say, 2 or 3 players at a time, running through, grabbing what they need, and then going. You can see, even as I'm doing this tour, this place is huge. It can accommodate more than 2 or 3 players in different places, but there's only so much going only so many places that they're going to want to go. So these little locations here, there's more of those suites that are like those medical suites. On this side is more geared towards industrial, commercial, the Incredi Fun and all that other stuff. And there's a nice coffee maker just sitting in the middle of the lounge. I think they're going to lock down these lounges when there's more players. And you'll need reputation to get in these lounges. They'll have an NPC at the front, block off the other door, or put NPCs at both doors, a lot like OZA, and then turn around and just go, oh, you need to have level 2 rep with Microtech in order to have access. And there's even one that's a Shubin Interstellar lounge that we're gonna see on the other end of this loop that's just devoted to them. So you'll need rep with Shubin Interstellar, which I think is nice. I like the idea of one company not having complete and utter dominance. Granted, they're not running every one of these stores in theory, but having the haulers having their ability to say, yeah, I have rep with this team and I feel like it's a home away from home, so to speak, for me. I'm noting these planets are pretty neat, but it's just something you see and you go with. They're just for show. There is a few more locations that are not quite fleshed out yet. Most of the lounges are named after the moons of Microtech. And there is like a lot of transit, courier service, haulers, and then most importantly, 3 things. In retail, we would call these anchor stores. So this is the trade center, and the TDC is your place where you go and you sell your goods, buy goods to haul out of here or haul into here. This is like the primary one when it's in the loop. So there is times where it's too buggy or the event does not have items that are sold as trade goods. You would not come here to sell them. Then you have Centermass, which is your weapons dealer here on this location. We're going to get there. Trust me. I'm looking over each one of these sections. Here's Microtech and Protection Services. So this is where the NPCs would be. So they're soldiers, they're defenders, they're guards that run around this place. And more of those suites. And then another lounge. But right after this lounge, we will get to, this is the Microtech lounge. Note, I think that's actually going to mean something eventually. You have Centermass coming up, which is one of the other of the 3 anchor stores. So we hit Omega first earlier in the video, then we hit the TDC, now we're hitting Centermass, and these doorways are the choke points, I think. Then your next choke point is these screens. So this giant store.
Let me know if there's anything I can
So
help
in
you
this
with.
giant store, you just use those 4 kiosks, 2 on the left, 2 on the right.
Hi,
And
welcome.
that means that you have 2 choke points. One is at the front doors, where those doors kind of tighten up people transiting in and out. And then you have 4 kiosks that are right on top of each other. People are going to be bumping into each other. Shubin Interstellar right here has a single kiosk sitting outside. It's like a, sorry, we don't have the rest of the place set up yet. Here's a kiosk. And this is full of ship components. This is almost as important as Omega when it comes to mining and things like that. So it's nice that it's there, but at the same time, it really brings up like and here's the Shubin Interstellar Lounge, by the way. And it brings up an interesting point. Oh, by the way, why I care about the lounges. I get that this isn't an airport or something and people don't care about that kind of stuff. I get it. But what you're missing is that there's free drinks in there. So the free drinks and resources like that, and most likely in the future, there's going to be a lot more players running around. It's a nice little perk to have. So I think perks will become more and more important because there won't be, free stuff, and that's going to cut into your bottom line. Even if we're talking about a few UEC here and there, it's nice to not have to spend that. These are the item kiosks. There's 8, 4 on each side of this thing. And this is another way they could go to expand out this place as we get more and more players, is the Microtech factory store, which is built like a Apple store on steroids. I think the Apple store wishes it was this. And this place is huge. There's 2 main floors as well as the education and entry foyer upstairs, I'll call it, on the first floor. That had the original Microtech the Microtech watch V1, like the Hollow watch thing, that later became the band that we know. So Down the third floor, though, really all this is just for show. These hollow tables are built for capital ships. And the smallest ship I think that would have something like this is like a Carrack, for example. That's on that size. But this area right here could be repurposed and suddenly be additional kiosks for people to buy stuff at. So if the second floor is just mobbed with people all trying to get geared up for whatever additional stuff, like a good example of microtech stuff is like the hacking tools, which are also cleverly put around a table with many options, and then you can walk up and hold down F and take them, like buy them, you know, I'm not saying take them, but they have like different color Mobi-Glass containers, and I think the V1 is actually still called a Mobi-Glass. It's just the version 1 of it is on display in a locked box on that level. And here is MT Planetary Services, which you only care about when you want to sell your gifts. So I'm going to wrap this up by selling my, I think it's 2,000 UEC worth of boxes I found just for fun. And you note the crime stat payables there. So you can pretty much play the whole game, dare I say it, out of this. Yeah, the gameplay loops don't pay much, but they do exist. And I just can't help but notice like that's part of what I think they're going for, is like that if you're waiting for your friends, you're waiting for your org mates to come online and such, you can still gear up, have a good time, go visit the commons. And this is not just a commons thing. There are other locations throughout Stanton. And if you really like this and you're interested in me going over the other ones, let me know. I'll gladly go over them. So that'll do it for this video. Thank you for coming along with me. Thank you to my long-term subscribers for putting up with me. And if you haven't already, please consider subscribing. I wish you a great New Year's when it gets there. It is wild how fast this year has flown by. And here's to a hopefully smooth 4.0 live very, very soon. Take care.